Hi everyone, I'm so happy that you're here to join me for the Way of the Animal podcast. Been thinking a lot recently about how much I've been rushing. It's so easy to rush, and I think it comes with the change of the season too. So now we're going in the northern hemisphere from winter into spring, and the weather's changing, the snow is gone, it's warming up slowly, and I just feel like I'm coming out of a cocoon. I've been quite idle and stationary and just embracing what winter has brought for me and embracing that inner time that I've had. And now that I'm moving into spring and there's plans for there's extra work that I do on the ranch in the summer doing ecological surveys. So I'm starting to look at getting organised for that and what I'm doing for that, and just planning more activities outside and just spending more time outside. I'm also, with it being lighter earlier, I want to get going and outside much earlier than I did in the winter. So in the winter I would get up and then let the dogs out and then they'd come back in, and then I'd do a yoga for 20 minutes or so while I was waiting for it to be light enough to go outside. And now it's light enough to go outside straight away when I get out of bed, and it's hard for me to it's like suddenly I'm not fitting in the yoga. I'm not taking that time to just do that thing because I just want to get outside. And it's like a rush. I want to rush outside. And that's where I start to lose myself and who I'm being. It's just like I'm rushing to get outside, and then in that energy, I start to do my outside things and I do them, and I'm not being while I'm out there. So I just don't take in what's in front of me. I don't slow down and see what's right there. I don't listen in the same way. I'm not receiving, I'm just busy, busy, busy. A bit like we're talked about in the present moment podcast. It's just like I'm not being in my present moment. It's not even that I'm thinking that far ahead or behind. It's just like I'm just moving, and I'm moving too fast. And it was as I was journaling today that the final words were just feel into that stillness and take more time. It's like I've made a cup of tea and I could go and sit outside and just sit and drink the tea and just be. But quite often I'm thinking of, I could do this and I could do that. It's suddenly I feel like it's all about doing. Everything I'm, wanting to do, I'm just wanting to do, and I'm taking less time to just be. And I think that's where, for me, I start to lose myself, because I don't take that time to breathe. I don't take that time to listen to how I'm feeling and what's going on with me, so that I can be aware of myself and help myself as things change as I progress through the day. And it's funny, it's coming to my eyes at this point because my sinuses are starting to get a bit sore. It's getting pretty dry again here and it's a bit dusty, so that tends to flare up my sinuses. But for me as well, that's often a sign when I'm doing too much too quickly, and it's also a sign when I've possibly got emotions that I haven't been processing. It seems to be, for me, I've realised that my sinuses, like I know where a lot of the problems where they started, but basically it's like a weakness. So I don't know if anyone else has this, where they have an area in their body that seems to be weaker energetically. So, and being weaker energetically, it tends to be the place where you start to feel pain or discomfort, and it's not necessarily that place is the problem. It's where the problem is collecting. It's where it's showing you that you need to help yourself, So when my sinuses start to get sore, then I look at, okay, so how am I feeling? And where can I help myself to release any emotions that I'm not dealing with? Because sometimes emotions just get caught up in you and you even realize that you're just holding on to them and you haven't fully let them go. And generally that's a sign like I'll be more grumpy with the dogs that day. And that's just a sign that what's within me is a bit of anger, frustration, that kind of emotion. And I haven't released it. So it's just there and it's coming out whenever I'm just being in any situation. I'm just feel grumpy, And these are great indicators of how you're feeling and how to release it. And I suppose I didn't really think I was going to be talking about emotions much just now, but I think when you find that stillness, that's when you can be aware of the emotions that are sitting in you and ways that you can just help to release them. And breathing, breathing in the stillness. It's been interesting just kind of reminding myself to feel into how I'm feeling and to take those moments that I haven't been taking to slow down and to listen to myself. And I think when we get really busy, it's really easy to ignore ourselves and ignore listening to ourselves. So I don't know. I found that really interesting. I don't know if you can hear one of my dogs is dreaming in the background. I don't know if you've noticed in all my podcasts that we're keeping it real. The dogs pitter patter about on the floor and sometimes they're noisier than others. And it is just what it is. This is real life. I'm just recording. I've not got a fancy studio. I am just recording as it is. And yeah, sometimes those recordings have extra noises, but it's just like, for me, I think it just makes it more homely. It's more real. It's just how it is. So yeah, I don't know if you could hear her dreaming. Back to what I was talking about. So why is it that I rush? And I mentioned before in other podcasts, I hate rushing. So why am I rushing? Why do I feel like now I've got more energy and I feel enthusiastic about getting on with things? Do I forget to slow down and take the time that I need to feel into how I'm feeling, to rest, to just enjoy what's there in front of me and listen to it, and be with it? It's interesting that we seem to go through these seasons with the seasons, and sometimes we forget that we can actually change how we're being in a moment and just bring ourselves back and just feel into how we are and take that time. It's taking that time. Why is it we feel like when we gain momentum that if we stop to be still that we're going to lose momentum? It's almost like a fear, like if you stop moving then you may never get going again. And I think when you believe that that's the way it is, I think that's how you get burnt out very easily. And it's good to follow the momentum and being the energy, but it's also good to stop and just breathe and take in what you need to take in and slow down when you need to slow down, and recognizing that in yourself. I think it's very easy to just get lost in the doing and forgetting about how you're being. So I believe that the way we're being is the way that we be to become. So being to become. So when we get lost in being really busy and doing all the things that we're doing, we don't enjoy the journey and we don't feel the way we want to feel because we're just so busy doing. So, on a personal level, if you want to feel happy and confident and you want to be successful and things like that, then what I've realized is to become those things, first, you just got to be them. So it's like each connected moment in time, like I was talking about with present moment is your opportunity to find that happiness within you, to find that joy, to find the success, to find that feeling within you. And that way you will become it. You don't become it by doing, you become it by feeling that way. And honestly, then it doesn't matter what you do, because for me, I feel one of the most important things is just to feel happy. Happy in your own skin, happy in your own life, happy doing whatever you're doing. And it's that thing that we've spoken about, if you can believe you're happy and you feel happy in whatever you're doing, whenever you're doing it, then you're succeeding, That's all we really want in the end. So when you're lost in the doing and becoming, you're not living in the moment. You're not living in the time of like right now. So we miss the moments, and it's like we're reaching out with our energy and searching for what we're thinking is outside of us. Whatever goal we've got, we think whatever goal we've got is outside of us. Whereas everything comes from within us and connecting to ourselves. And I certainly found that with the podcast, when I've been looking for outside of me topics and ideas and things I want to talk about. I've really struggled. And what came to me today was to find what I want to talk about is within me. That's where it is. And that's where I find the answers, not outside of me. So when I actually slow down, because I've been so busy doing, I've been enjoying doing and having that momentum, is that the inspiration isn't going to come from me doing. It's going to come from me just sitting with myself and listening to myself. Whether that's writing in my journal or just actually listening to the world around me, because that's where quite often your inspiration will come from. The connection that you have when you are listening quite often means that you get ideas from just what seem like random places, and they're the best ideas you can have. But when you're too busy doing with the searching, then you'll miss these. I also think that sometimes when we are so busy doing and we aren't aware of how we're being, it's like we just become disconnected to ourselves. Like I said before, I feel like I'm disconnected from myself. And, you can just bring in some simple things into your life to remind you of who you are and how you want to be. And something that I read in a Mark Rashid book was about our softness, about how we are with inanimate objects. And it really hit home in that way, like when you pick up a pen or you pick up a mug and you're making a cup of tea, just like anything you're doing, quite often we aren't conscious of the way we're interacting with these inanimate objects. And I don't know, this just came up as a thought right now, in that it's something you can really do very simply to make you very aware of how you're being. So you pick up a pen, and quite often you pick it up quite harshly and you hold it quite tightly, even though you don't need to. It's just you're not conscious. It's a subconscious act. So I think it's a really cool and clever thing to look at and feel into, is be more conscious about how you are interacting just with inanimate objects. Because especially with being with animals and working with the animals and connecting with animals, bringing that unconscious harshness is what I would call it, to any interaction with your animal. That sort of overpressure is not helpful to them or the connection. And I think it actually, if you spend the time practicing your softness in consciously with just inanimate objects, how you are with your animals is a completely different way. So, I'm just thinking like one of the dogs comes up and I pet them on the head, I stroke their head. And I can be quite firm with that. But actually when you slow down and consciously stroke them in the softest way, like you are stroking like a rose petal, just really make it like the most gentle motion. There's a different energetic feeling and feedback from that. And I'd love for you to try it and see if you notice it. And another thing is, I think actually Mark Rashid talked about this in the book as well. And I don't have horses at the moment, but I'd love to try it. So please try it if you have horses, but try it with any of your animals. So it could be dogs too, or whatever animal you work with. But before you even get to where your animal is, so your horse, so let's do horse as an example. You want to go and catch your horse. So you go to wherever you store your head collar, and every part of your approach to the horse, as in going to get the equipment before you go to the horse, do it with softness. And then you've picked up the equipment and then you're going to their field and the gate or the stable door or whatever you have to interact with it with softness. And then notice if your animal is being or feeling a little bit different when you approach them in this way. And the same way with when you take the dog out, how you put your shoes on, how you put your jacket on, how you get hold of their lead and harness and whatever you're putting on them to go for the walk. Just be really aware of consciously interacting with things with softness. And just see how your animal, behaves. See if you can feel a difference in them. Because I think in that stillness and the softness and the quietness of interacting with the inanimate objects that are used with your animal or used near your animal can influence your way of being, their way of being, and your connection together, because it will just feel different. So I would love for you to try that and let me know if you notice any changes, and just bring it into everything with your life. That it's very easy to just take it to specific moments. Like I said, taking your dog for a walk, going to catch your horse or whatever. But you can bring it into more moments in your life. How you interact with the kettle when you make yourself a hot drink, and, how you use your knife and fork, how you eat, how you drink, how you interact with your vehicle when you go to drive. It's just by bringing in a conscious way of being and something where you are inviting in a softness, that way you invite in that stillness and the slowness, and you're not rushing and you're not being in a way that is unhelpful to whatever activity you're doing. You're actually just connecting better with yourself and being in a way that I think invites more of that softness from everything else around you. And it's just, makes it more of a more harmony. You just feel more like you're in sync with everything, rather than when you're rushing and you're busy doing. It can just feel just so busy, and it can be quite overwhelming as well at times. So give it a try and let me know. Thank you for listening, and